Hello, everybody, and thank you for clicking on Doofus After Dark for a Monday, halfway through the month of May, the 15th day of May. It's Indy 500 month in Indiana. We'll be talking about the 500 coming up in a little bit. Not tonight, but as we move closer. Tonight, we've got some news that we need to get out and a little something message wise at the end. Once again, thank you all for clicking on. And let's get to the news, shall we? First off, we will take a look at what's happening breaking news wise with the mainstream media. The Washington Post, the Durham report released the Trump Russia FBI probe was sharply criticized. That's according to the Washington Post. NBC News, New Mexico shooting, 3 dead, 2 wounded in a Farmington attack. And we'll go more in depth on that coming up too. NPR, the Supreme Court will hear a subpoena case that surprise Trump's involved in. CNN, a Democratic congressman's staff attacked by a man with a baseball bat. We'll get into that a little bit deeper as well. And finally, as far as our mainstream headlines go, this will let me do that. CNBC Treasury Secretary Yellen reaffirms the U.S. could run out of money to pay its bills and thus default. And that could happen by the middle of June or early June. And according to Reuters, DeSantis defunds diversity programs at Florida public colleges. We'll be talking about all of those actually in a little more depth. In the meantime, let's take a look at what's happening with our Twitter scroll. A Fed gets recognized and called out at a Patriot March. And here, let's take a quick listen to this, if we can. Come back here. There we go.
Oh, so you're videotaping?
Did you just take my phone?
You're videotaping us? That's not acceptable.
This is a public place.
You're trying to get us in trouble, sir.
I need a copy.
Go find one. I'm deleting the video.
No,
Nope.
you're not going to touch
Nope,
my
you're
phone.
Not. You're not taking a video of us. When I pull
Look,
my
dude,
mask down.
I recognize you.
Yeah, I know you do.
So give me my phone.
I'm deleting the video. Oh, so you're
Okay, so that happened during the Patriot Front March this past weekend. And we also have this, apparently, allegedly, Rudy Giuliani was selling pardons and splitting the bribe money with Trump. Again, this is allegedly. That makes any such pardon a crime. And the FBI has known this as Rudy tried to flip, but Jared had flipped ahead of him. This all comes from Keith Olbermann. Again, this is alleged. This comes from the leader of the Wagner Group, however your preference for pronouncing it. Oh, crap. Here we go. Your preference for pronouncing it. A very blistering message, and I'll just read it as we go along. The soldiers need to be, I'm sorry, here we go. Drop that down. The soldiers need to be trained, and my soldiers get trained for 2 months at the very least. Furthermore, their training is 20 out of 24 hours a day. So if you are not capable, you will die from a heart attack or a stroke during it. But if you make it to the front lines, you're going to be a monster. What is happening with the training of the mobilized that we see being brought to the front lines is simply utilization. You can't do it like that. Russia will run out of people. The most important thing in any war is not the territory, it's the soldier. A soldier needs to be protected. And to protect a soldier, you need to make him run around and run around the training ground and force him to know how to do everything ahead of time. What's happening now is that the soldiers are all by themselves. The Joint Chiefs of Staff are somewhere. I've been on many times the front line. Parquet generals is called that. There are parquet floors everywhere as well as marble. All of them are generals. You don't encounter a single colonel anywhere. Everyone smells like expensive cologne, so much that you want to gag, and that's why there's a disconnect. Here's the generals who are enjoying life. There are the naked, barefoot soldiers getting killed. In between them are layers. Unfortunately, they're all just fabric. That's why if the leading general is capable of making decisions, he won't be able to bring them to the lowest level, because under him there's next, then next, then next, and everyone. No balls got eliminated the past 10 years. Everyone with balls got eliminated the past 10 years. The only ones left are the ones ready to kiss ass. If you're not ready to kiss ass, you don't satisfy the system. You get your teeth knocked in if you're fierce. That's where the problem lies. The decisions get made, but they don't get implemented because the staffing is between us all shaky. It's all just fabric. Anyone who disagreeing or trying to express their opinion is already either retired or sitting somewhere in a corner covered in and beaten so badly they're afraid to open their mouths. If you open your mouth, you would be sent to join the beaten ones sitting in a corner. This is the current problem that needs to be solved, or the Russian people will solve it by themselves at some point. That is the key line. This is the current problem that needs to be solved, or the Russian people will solve it by themselves at some point. Is he trying to rally the Russian people to a revolt, a revolution, if you will, or is he simply saying that Russia's going to run out of people and that will solve the problem eventually? This came in 7 hours ago. The United States is alarmed by news of China's plans to send its military to Russia. So this could be the reinforcements that the Wagner group is looking for. Data published by Chinese journalists, relations between Russia and China have noticeably gone up. And that is, of course, a concern to the United States and our allies, and specifically to the people in Ukraine. From the New York Times, 2 congressional staffers were hospitalized after a person armed with a baseball bat attacked them at the district office of Representative Jerry Connolly, a Democrat from Virginia. The individual is in custody. He went into the office with a metal baseball bat, hit the senior staffer in the head, and then hit an intern who was on her first day on the job, hit her in the ribs with the bat. Both of them are in the hospital, and both are expected to survive. It's just a reminder, Nancy Pelosi's husband was attacked, I don't know, 9 months ago now. Rand Paul had a staffer attacked, but I think that was random. I don't think that was because of a connection to politics, but it's just a reminder of what's going on in our world. This report came in from the Farmington Police Department, and this involves the mass shooting in Farmington, New Mexico. Another mass shooting today. Here's the report. Farmington Police Department, San Juan County Sheriff's Office, and New Mexico State Police are on scene. And now this is obviously outdated, but this was the report. At the scene of the shooter in Farmington. At this time, the details we have are that multiple officers from the Farmington Police Department were involved in an officer-involved shooting. One suspect was confronted and killed on scene. The suspect's identity is unknown, and there are no other threats at this time. 2 officers were shot, one from the Farmington Police Department, one from New Mexico State Police, both currently at San Juan Regional Medical Center being treated for their injuries and in stable condition. Multiple civilian victims with at least 3 deceased, and more details will be provided. But that gives you the basics of what happened. Again, yet another mass shooting. And I've got video. I'm not going to be showing it, but I do have video from the scene and this is not police video. This is not police video. This is video that was shot by someone at the scene. This building here is a church, and that was the scene. The video shows the assailant firing multiple shots from a handgun with an extended clip, and firing shots at police officers and police returning fire. And again, we are not showing that video, but one thing that really troubled me about that video was that it was the person that was playing the video on TikTok and adding commentary was almost chuckling at times through it, including and up to the point where the shooter was killed live on his stream. We as humanity need to realize the importance of life. We are devaluing life very quickly in our world. Humanity's getting very calloused. We in the United States are getting very calloused to the mass shootings, 220 so far, and that's not counting those that have less than 4 people killed. We need to try to do better. We need to try to do better. Christianity Today editor quotes Jesus to explain why he'd never vote for Trump. The editor-in-chief of a leading evangelical magazine called out Donald Trump for attacking the writer who had accused the former president of rape, and the audience of supporters who laughed and cheered when he did. Quote, think about the teenage girl in a church somewhere who's being abused by her youth pastor, wondering whether to come forward. Christianity Today's Russell Moore said on Meet the Press on Sunday. When the victim is ridiculed by a presidential candidate in front of a crowd, the response is laughter. That has devastating implications. Last week, a civil jury found the former president liable for sexual abuse and defamation in a lawsuit brought by writer E. Jean Carroll. Then Trump attacked Carroll as a whack job, quote unquote, during a CNN town hall event as the audience laughed. Moore opposed Trump in both 2016 and 2020, and Trump attacked Moore as a nasty guy with no heart. Chuck Todd on Sunday asked Moore if he could ever see himself supporting the former president in 2024. And he says, quote, I can't speak for all evangelicals. I can only speak for myself. And Jesus said, and again, subquoting, let your yes be yes and your no be no, in subquote. He said, quote, I'll let my never be never. And again, that came from mainstream media. This is coming from USA Today. Quote, rematch from hell, end quote. Former GOP lawmaker says Americans don't want Biden versus Trump in 2024. I think that might actually be true, that a lot of Americans don't want those two to be the choices. However, we know how things work system-wise. This comes from USA Today. Scientists warn an El Nino is likely coming that could bring scorching heat to the earth. This comes 4 hours ago. We've been talking about this kind of stuff on our Science Tuesdays when we've had them, about the weakening magnetic field, about the strengthening of the sun's CMEs. And anyway, we've been telling you this summer the sun is going to feel hotter than it has before. And scientists are now, oh, didn't mean to do that. Apologies. Scientists are now confirming that. WW3, World War III fears. In chilling move, Russia stations 18 nuclear bombers near NATO nations' borders. Russian President Vladimir Putin has chillingly stationed 18 nuclear-capable tactic bombers near the NATO border in a stark caution to the West. A haunting new satellite image exposes the extent of the display, revealing a variety of nuclear jets readied at Olean Air Base on Russia's Kola Peninsula, 130 miles from Finland and Norway. Keep in mind, we had in our Twitter scroll the Wagner group leader saying that, it's not working for Russia on the ground. And he is basically he is Putin's privatized army. He's not really under any control by the Russian military, so he's free to say what he's feeling, and I think he did. Now, we just mentioned what the Russians have done. The world reacts. The Air Force, this is United States Air Force, showed off 8 of the B-2 stealth bombers at one time. And here is an image of what those look like. We're just learning about it, but they put up the display back in November of last year, primarily to kind of do what Russia was doing to us and just, give them something to think about. Hang on just a second, if you would, please. This comes from Raw Story and also from the Morning Joe MSNBC morning show. I haven't watched that in like over a decade. I don't watch morning news show. Anyway, quote, a bitter, diseased soul. That's what Morning Joe panel hammers Trump's unhinged weekend attack. And panel on Morning Joe Monday scorched Donald Trump over a Mother's Day post he made on his Truth Social platform, with one panelist calling him unhinged. Host Joe Scarborough saying his words showed that he's a bitter man. And conservative Charlie Skikes kicked off the discussion by pointing to the post and asking if the Republicans are paying attention to the path Trump is going down. And he cited Trump's Mother's Day tweet as prime evidence. And of course, we had that tweet on last night's episode, or yesterday evening's episode, I should say. Last night's episode was a specific special edition episode with a message from John F. Johnson, Grandmaster J from the NFAC. This comes from Fox News. Russia, China cozy up as military powers threaten the existing order. And this comes during a meeting in Japan. Japan and the United States leaders, foreign minister and our Secretary of State and their leader of their military and our Secretary of the Military, or Secretary of Defense, I should say, met. Okay, here we go. Ron DeSantis offers white nationalism for the country club crowd. Now, that is a quote and an end quote. A former GOP congressman says. Again, we touched on it in the headlines. DeSantis signed a bill today that there would be no diversity, equity, or I'm sorry, no diversity, equality, or inclusion taught in any colleges in Florida. He said if you want niche majors, then go to Berkeley, but that the Florida universities are going to teach nothing but the basics. We'll see how that plays. And finally, a troubling story from Belarus, one of Russia's neighbors. Belarus leader and Putin ally. And I would not have included that in the headline, but it is there. Belarus leader and Putin ally Alexander Lukashenko is rumored dead following a sudden hospitalization. He visited Moscow right before the May 9th parade and the victory parade, which wasn't a parade really, as we said on here. It had been primarily canceled due to safety concerns. There were some young soldiers and there was one tank and there was a Putin speech, and that was the whole thing. But he was hospitalized, the leader of Belarus, while he was in Moscow with a mysterious illness. And he hasn't been doing exactly everything that Putin has wanted. So there is some rumblings in the back channels, if you will, that he might have been poisoned and might have passed away. Again, this is allegedly, but Belarus leader and Putin ally Alexander Lukashenko rumored dead following a sudden hospitalization. So that wraps up our news for the night, and a lot there to take in. One of the stories that I thought I had in there, but it wasn't included, was that Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying to track down prostitutes that apparently Hunter Biden might have paid for services from, allegedly. So there's that. Now, I want to end with this. Don't be toxic. What's toxic? Well, toxic is poisonous. Toxic is something harmful, potentially deadly. Some people are naturally toxic, or at least they are constantly toxic, and they revel in their toxicity, if you will. And some people become toxic and maybe don't even realize they're toxic until it's pointed out. And if we're honest, most of us at one time or another have probably been toxic, even if it's just for a brief moment, because none of us are perfect. But toxic people end up attracting toxic people, and they end up pushing away everything else, not just everybody else, but everything else. So don't be toxic. And it's just something to think about. Okay. Just something to think about. Now, I'm not talking about anybody in particular, and I'm talking about everybody. As I said, if we're honest, I think all of us at some point have been toxic. So this isn't, throwing rocks in a glass house or anything like that. And again, who am I talking about? I'm not talking about anybody in particular. I'm talking about everybody. Okay. So if it doesn't apply to you in any way, shape, or form, then don't let it. It's like the old Cinderella thing. If the shoe fits, wear it. But if it doesn't, don't try to put your foot in it. Just something to think about. It's a toxic, dark world. Try to be a light. Don't be toxic. Love you all.